If you're an entrepreneur in 2020, here is one author and 6 books that you need to read that will take you to the next level. I got a chance to interview Mike Michalowicz, best-selling author, incredible guy. Check this interview out. I've spent the last 5 years learning from the most brilliant entrepreneurs today, and now I've left my 9-to-5 to take the plunge and build $1 million business. The real question is, what does it take to become a successful entrepreneur and create financial freedom? This podcast is here to give you the answer. Join me and follow along as I learn, apply, and share insights from world-class entrepreneurs to grow my online business and create a community of raving fans. My name is Brendan McCauley, and this is Growing Entrepreneur. Guys, I am super excited because we have the pleasure of getting Mike Michalowicz. Guys, if you don't know who this gentleman is, he is a full-time entrepreneur, super successful, has written 5 incredible books, changing my life, changing entrepreneurial lives just like yours, has one coming up soon. Mike, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. Truly appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm happy we were able to pull this off. Thanks for having me on, Brendan.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it, Mike. So somebody says, "Hey, who is Mike Michalowicz?" Just tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you about?
Yeah, depends who you ask. You ask my wife. He's like, he's kind of a weirdo, is what she would say.
Perfect.
You ask other entrepreneurs, and I'm probably most recognized for my authorship work. But my background is I'm an entrepreneur for my entire life. Ever since I graduated college, I've been running businesses. I've had the good fortune of building and selling 2 companies. I had a private equity exit on my first business. It was in the tech space.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. My second company, I sold to a Fortune 500, which was cooler.
Mm-hmm.
But those are kind of CV type bullet points. I think the real interesting story, quite frankly, is the struggles. Growing those businesses, they were not successful. From the outside, they looked successful, but they weren't profitable. I struggled. And yes, I made money when I sold them, but I didn't understand the discipline of a true healthy business. And my third venture, which I conveniently exclude from my CV, I was a angel investing firm. I used my own money, started these different businesses. I had no right to be in that space. I was full of arrogance and ignorance, which is a deadly combination.
I'd say that makes a hell of a combo.
Yeah, it's horrible. And so I lost all my wealth. I was a millionaire in my early 30s, self-made, and I lost it all within 2 years and had to restart. And came to realize it's just that combination is deadly, arrogance and ignorance. And so I became an author. I became an author to, in part, address, actually mostly to fix my own erroneous ways and try to figure out systems that would drive my businesses forward and make it easier for me. And I found out that a lot of stuff I was writing would actually serve other entrepreneurs. And that's when I decided to devote my life to being an author first and foremost.
I love it. Well, and you look like a young guy. You're what, 33, 34?
Yeah. Are you kidding? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. No, I'm like almost 50, but I do appreciate that. That's funny.
Okay.
The
funny part is like in all your pictures, and I've looked at a couple of your different books and, the Facebook site. So, you have your one very distinct look on you. But so you're talking to a guy who just turned 31, and
nice.
My goal is to be basically at that same spot that you were. So, I mean, you had this desire to be an entrepreneur. Was it a not fit into the 9-to-5? Like what, for the person who doesn't know you, and obviously you tell us in your books, what was the entrepreneurial spark that said, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, so it was weird. My start to becoming an entrepreneur was I never expected that. When I graduated college, the expectation from my parents was, oh, you get a one-time job for the rest of your life. You work there for a corporation, and the corporation will care for you. And it made sense because that's the generation my parents grew up in. But I tried to get the one job out of school. I couldn't get it. I had no entrepreneurial aspirations. So I started working at a computer store because that's all I could get. And I'll never forget this. I went out one night with another guy that worked at the computer store, and we started throwing back some beers. And I'm like, this guy who owns the business, he's a jerk. And all he does is sit in the back room counting the money that we're making for him. I'm working my ass off. And, you throw back a couple pops and you start getting a little bit like, slurry. And
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, right, exactly. And like liquid courage by beer number like 5 or 6. I'm like, screw this. I'm starting my own business. That guy's a jerk. And I left this slurry drunk message for the boss.
Oh, God.
Quit. like an idiot. And I said, I'm gonna kick your ass. You're
Oh, you threw that in there?
Yeah. Well, I didn't say his exact words, but pretty close.
Okay.
And the next morning, I was like hung over, and I came to work anyway. And I told him, I said, I'm so sorry, I was drunk, I didn't mean it. And he goes, "You're fired. Just get the hell out of here."
Oh,
I'll tell you one thing. He goes, "You try to compete with me, I will crush you." And
wow, challenge accepted.
That's how I started my first business. Which
I love it.
It's called burning the bridges. I don't recommend it to anybody. Do not drink your way into a first business, but that's how I did it.
Okay. And this is what? I mean, that was your what, late 20s, early? That's
early 20s. So I started my first company. I was 23.
Damn, you started young.
Yeah, I graduated college when I was 21. I worked for 2 years for this computer company. And then 23, I was like, I'm on my own. And so I've been an entrepreneur for almost 25 years now.
Okay. So pretty much your books are a complete collection of just the ups and downs and the whole roller coasters.
Yeah. And it's not, listen, it's bits of my stories, but I think more importantly, I research out tons of companies. It's a lot of other entrepreneurial stories. And what I try to look for is a common thread. So with profitability, for example, the vast majority of businesses in this world, even though they brag about the top line, are not profitable.
Right.
So I try to find the common thread that drives profit. And same with all my books. You know, there's a lot of hearsay and talk about how successful businesses are, but when you peel back the onion, these entrepreneurs that say they're living a lavish life and can do what they want, they're working their butts off and not making money. And is the reality.
So you know, you're rocking this entrepreneurial lifestyle and you're talking to a lot of guys that are doing the same thing. What for you was the most challenging part of being an entrepreneur and to keep going?
I guess the most challenging part is is the transition from fear to confidence. So what I found is that when I start a business, it's true for every business I start, it's fraught with fear. And initially I'm like, I got to be tough and, you know, no fear and fight through it. And then I realized, no, you know what? The reality is I need to embrace fear because it brings an energy that I wouldn't have otherwise. I could wake up at the butt crack of morning and work until the wee hours of the night because I was just scared of how am I going to feed myself and my family. By the way, I had a family at 23 too, a wife and a child. Okay. So, you know, I had a lot of responsibility. Now my wife and I have 3 children. And so the responsibility just has grown. And I just had to feed everybody. So panic and fear drove me. The thing I realized though, is there's a certain point, Brendan, where if you are driven by fear, it becomes so stressful that it'll start affecting your health. And, you know, I remember the stress of feeling that my chest compressing and so forth. So fear needs to transfer to confidence. And what confidence is the realization that I can bring and did bring stability in sales to my business, stability in profit. And then once you achieve confidence saying, okay, I got this figured out and are able to, you know, replicate and amplify what's working. The final stage is aspirational. And it's like, okay, now I really have this figured out. How can I change the world? How can I be of great impact?
Sure.
But we got to leverage that fear in the beginning.
No, I completely agree with you. So funny story. I remember the one day I walked in and I was working for a corporate healthcare company for about 10 years.
Right.
And I just, for the past like 3 years prior, every day you walk in, you're like, I don't want to do this, but I know I have to and blah, blah, blah. So it was that transition. I talked to my girl the night before. I said, babe, I want to cash in my 401k. Yeah. I want to do my own entrepreneurial thing. She's like, okay, I totally got you. So literally walked into the boss's office the next day and said, XYZ, thank you so much. I appreciate all the years, but here's my 3 months notice, you know, enough for them to kind of make that transition. Yeah. I'm sitting and I will say over the course of an entire week, I had people coming in saying, you know what, you can still go back if you want. Yeah. It's like, we'll still have a job position for you, the whole 9 yards. Do you have something set up? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, look, I got enough contacts. We're going to make this happen. And now it's 2 years later and I'm working for a company soon to go public on the Canadian Securities Exchange and similar to what you're doing. So it was the scariest and the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah.
And I suspect if you didn't do that and if I didn't do what I did, that it's a life then of regret. I mean, there is no promise it's going to work out. And honestly, for most entrepreneurs, it is a fraught with failure and it doesn't work out. But I'll tell you, starting a business and attempting to build a business, succeed or fail, the fact that you had the courage to do it is, I think, the most superhero-like thing we can do.
I appreciate it, man. It was so all right. You had your shiny moment when I called you 30. That's my shiny moment for the podcast. All right, awesome. So I'll tell you what, I want to dig into your books a little bit. So the first one that you wrote back, I think it was 2008, was The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And the concept was really, get rid of the business plan, talk about your resources, and take massive action. So give us like a 30-second synopsis of what brought that.
Yeah. So what I realized was that it's the lack of resources that can be advantageous. So most people, as an example, business plan is something that we're told to develop, and I just noticed the ridiculousness of that effort to prepare this document that plans out the next 5 years of our business and has, financial projections, which are they're total bullshit. Because if you look at most business plans, they are so far from the truth. And honestly, if you can predict the financials for a company that doesn't exist yet and how it's going to perform for 5 years, you could pick the stock market and determine how it's going to perform for one day, which will make you a billionaire. So it's not realistic by any stretch of the imagination. But also I noticed that many entrepreneurs thought that to start a business, they needed tons of experience. They wanted to get that under their belt before they move into it. I found it's actually the lack of that resource, the lack of experience actually drives innovation and out-of-the-box thinking. It was the lack of contacts and friends who are willing to buy your stuff that forced you to learn how to sell to strangers. So it was always a lack that spawned innovation and pursuit of a vision. It was when we had money and contacts and so forth that businesses actually got a slower or struggling start.
Yeah, it's that concept of never stop doing what made you successful in the first place. Right?
Yeah.
So you see these guys on like this meteoric rise, and they're like, "Oh, we're doing great," and then it just kind of teeters off, and then, hopefully doesn't eventually die, but starts lacking a bit.
Yeah, and it's funny, when I saw businesses starting with money, they would burn through that cash so quickly. Oh, I need that expensive logo designed. We need the nice office furniture to impress our clients. It's when we had no money, as an example, for a resource, then it's like, how do we still pull this off with no money? And they start thinking innovatively. And the best businesses are the innovative businesses.
Right. No, completely. So, and then that, I think goes into your second book, which is in 2012, you wound up writing The Pumpkin Plan. So that was all about, taking that one business and just making this thing, make it the right seed, grow it as large as possible, weed out the losers and nurture the winners.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I studied, of all things, colossal pumpkin farmers.
That was a great analogy, by the way.
Yeah, it was crazy, but it was the reality. I hired my first business coach. He's like, let's hit the fields. And here's what I found is there's a lot of truth held by nature. And if we simply study what nature's doing, we can replicate it in our businesses and our lives. And specifically, what was interesting about these pumpkin farmers, these colossal guys, they were able to grow these massive pumpkins by changing the growing process of an ordinary pumpkin just by a few percentage points. They do this here and that there, but it wasn't significantly different. But those few elements resulted in this explosive growth. So I translated it back to business, and I found that healthy colossal businesses are changing the growing process, if you will, of the business just by a few elements. And a couple of elements is like one concept is called seed selection. Seed selection is where you got to pick a seed that matches your environment. It matches the soil, it matches the weather conditions, and it's optimized to grow for that condition. Many businesses don't. Many businesses just say, hey, I have an idea, let me see how it goes. And
they just they just wing it.
Wing it. And they're like, why isn't it working? Well, that's like planting a seed in concrete. Like it's probably not going to take root. So what we need to do, and there's a whole Venn diagram I prepared for this, but we got to actually look at what makes us truly unique, but look at the community that resonates with that uniqueness and then find ways to systematize it. And that's a good seed element when you consider all three of those elements. I also talked about another concept I call client cloning, and any business can do this, but so few do, is you look at your client list and determine who are the true best clients. They pay you the most, they're very profitable, you enjoy working with them. You circle those customers and say, I want to clone them. And then what you do is you simply ask them, where do you congregate? Because birds of a feather flock together.
Sure.
Ask your best customers what podcasts they listen to, probably yours, right? But what events they go to. And if you start appearing there as a guest on the show or you appear at the events, now that community starts seeing you over and over again, and inherently trust builds, and you start winning over more clients like your best client.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, definitely a great tip and something that's so easy to do, that's so easy also not to do. Right. So it just kind of sits there.
Yeah.
All right. So from 2008 to 2012, you write these couple books, and then 2 years later, you come out with this book. Which here's the ironic part. Last week, the gentleman Paul Ace, I met him through a group on Facebook, and he does bots and he does automation, and we got to a great conversation. A young entrepreneur, the kind of guys I'm trying to help out with, and he goes, "Well, you have your own personal financial model. what's your business model look like? And I said, well, I was looking for a financial business plan. He says, dude, you got to check out this book, Profit First.
That's awesome.
It's got to change, it's going to change your life. So I said, awesome. I'll tell you what, I want to put your course online because he does a bunch of coursework. And then, tell me about this book. So I look and it says Mike Michalowicz. So of course, obviously I'm like, you know what? I'm going balls to the walls. I'm getting this guy on the podcast. I want to read everything he's got. And so I had the podcast with him last week. I was like, do you know who I've got on next week? He's like, no way. No way. Yeah. So anyways, it was really cool. And I read the Profit First. I actually went to get a Profit First professional. This business that I'm working on the side, in addition to this cannabis, is really taking everything that you have laid out and setting a solid groundwork foundation. And the funny part is when I started speaking to her, the PFP, can I give a shout out to her?
Who is it?
Shayna Woods.
Yeah. Oh, I know Shayna very well. That's awesome. Yeah. She's fantastic. And I think she specializes in the cannabis market, if I recall correctly.
She also does like online courses and content.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Her and her purple hair. I know that.
Yeah. So she's phenomenal. And anyways, we first had the conversation. She's like, Brendan, if I would have implemented what I learned in Profit First back when she was my age, it would have made all the difference in the world. Yeah. So, so give us the idea. Like, we hear about Profit First. What is that?
Yeah. So the traditional formula for profitability is actually profit last. Now, we don't use those terms, but the traditional formula is sales minus expenses equals profit. And the vernacular, the terms we use, we say, well, profit's the bottom line or the year end. Everything is indicating profit's the last consideration. And when profit comes last, it means it can wait. It's like you would never say, you know what? I'm really concerned about my health. So starting today, I'm going to put my health last. Or, my family, I really love them. That's why I put them last. Those terms means they can wait. It can get disregarded. It's the manana syndrome. What comes first, though, is priority. So I would say I put my health first. I put my family first. And yet profit historically has been last. So in this formula, instead of sales minus expenses equals profit, what we do in Profit First is we flip it and make it sales minus profit equals expenses. In practice, the essence of it is every time we have a transaction in our business, immediately take a predetermined percentage of profit we want, allocate it accordingly, meaning take that money out, hide it away, and run your business off the remainder. That's the essence of Profit First.
Awesome. Yeah. And ultimately it comes down to, you have your 5 accounts, right? And this is what I've already established for my business. So you have your profit account first and foremost, your owner's pay, because at the end of the day, it's nice to actually get paid when you got
to be paid. Yeah.
Your taxes, which likes to sneak up on everybody, and they're like, holy shit, I got no money for taxes.
Yeah.
The operating income, and then your revenue. So those
exactly. That's it. That's the 5 accounts.
Yeah.
So what happens is that revenue account, or some people call it the income account, money flows into that, and it simply acts as a serving tray. Like I think of Thanksgiving dinner. Like we actually host it here at our house. I'm actually in my home office right now. And what happens is like we pull the turkey out, and then we don't tell the guests at the table, hey, everyone, grab your knife and fork, fight for it. Everyone for themselves. Of course not. I do the carving of the turkey. And why we do it is so we can apportion a piece of the turkey to every single plate. And that's the idea in our business. When we have a single account, and most businesses start off this way, all the cash turkey, if you will, piles up in that one account. And then we're like, oh, to the business, just stab in whenever you need it. I need computer equipment, whatever the urgent financial need is, we look at that one cash turkey and say that can feed all of it, but it has so many responsibilities. And then the next day when all that money is depleted, we're like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot payroll, or I can't pay myself again. So in this method, money flows into that income account. We then carve it up. A portion goes to profit, a portion goes to owner's pay and taxes and operating expenses. Now, with that money carved up, you look at these accounts and you can, give them the nicknames accordingly. You look at these accounts and say, okay, this is what I truly have for operating expenses. $1,000 come in, you don't have $1,000 to operate your business. After carving it up, you may say, oh my gosh, I have $300 to operate my business, but I also have $100 of profit. I've paid myself $400 and taxes are taken care of.
Yeah, so you just tick and tie everything, and then you're not in full-blown panic mode when you owe XYZ or your machine breaks down or, you got to pay people or what have you.
Right. It's kind of like there was this old system called the envelope system. It's based upon the envelope system. And
my mom did the same thing.
Oh, your mom too? Okay, so mom's kind of rule. So my mom did it. She worked at a factory down the road from here, and what she would do is she would carve up her money. So she'd get, say, $100 pay or whatever it was. She would, based on percentages, put in different envelopes. The mortgage, the food envelope, the church. She put in these different envelopes. When she went food shopping, she'd grab the food envelope and drive to the food store, and she'd work with the money that was there. Now, the interesting thing is she had volatile income. Over time, more money, sick, less money. And that's true for businesses. There's this volatile income. But since the percentages are static, it's always the same slice of either a big pie or small pie. Then when she went food shopping, if it was less money in there because she was sick that week or whatever, it would be, a very meager meal. If it was, if she had a lot of money in there, then it was, some good stuff. So that's how we have to operate too. The business will adjust to the actual income flow, but it will speak to us what we truly have to spend for, the equivalent of food for the business, the operating expenses.
Sure. Yeah. And the one basic thing, so my mom was a CFO for X number of years, and then she turned into a CEO and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And I've actually now been able to take that same principle of basically of what you teach and a couple other lessons. They have more of a jar system where they notate the percentage on it. Every Sunday, you got your list of chores. You get paid on that.
Yep.
They pay us a rent of $2 per week, and then you can do whatever else you want.
I love it. It's such a powerful system because the thing is, it works with human nature. When I tell people about the system, Brendan, they're like, "Oh, I get it." But you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do it on a spreadsheet, or I'm going to do it in my accounting system. That's why I shake my head and say, you're done. It's not going to work. First of all, if you try to do this in your accounting system, realize the accounting system already has it. It's called a chart of accounts. It divides up all the different elements of your business. So it's already all tracked. And if you already have that, are you profitable? And most business owners say no. So that's not working. And doing a spreadsheet is just another version of an accounting system. We have to intercept our natural behavioral path. That's the key. If it is the behavior of an entrepreneur to log into their bank account to see how much money's there, that means the system has to be at the bank. So that's carved up there. So when you log in, you see actually how much money is truly available. So you can't circumvent this. It has to be visual. Just like those jars at your house, very visual. You see where the money's carved up. By setting this up at the bank, you see where the money's carved up.
Yeah, and for those that don't want to go through this whole, money system and blah, 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 you have created a PFP, a profit first professional, correct?
Right. So it's kind of like the gym. Like, if you go to gym, there's a couple options. You decide I'm going to get fit. You start going to the gym. You try to exercise yourself. But if you aren't, familiar with it or haven't done it before, you may actually do bad exercises, wrong forms. You may injure yourself. So then the second step is you can get an accountability partner, and some profit first advocates find another business owner that's doing it. And that's a wonderful thing because now you have an accountability partner that says, hey, let's go to the gym today. I know it's raining out, but let's go. And you're like, oh, I didn't want to, but let's go. The problem, though, can be collusion. And collusion is where your friend says raining out and the other friend says, I know, I didn't want to go either. Do you want to get some donuts instead? And you're like, yeah, let's get some donuts. And now you're colluding on a behavior that's bad and it actually starts taking you far off track. The best is a trainer. Like a Shayna Woods, because what a trainer is someone that you're paying. They're not emotionally attached to you. They are receiving a reward, your money, to provide a service. So now if you don't show, they're calling you and say, hey, where are you today? Expected you here at the gym today. They have worked with hundreds of other people who are looking to get fit, so they know the proper exercises. They can script, say, don't start so fast. We have to build that muscle. We got to do certain stretches and certain moves so you don't get hurt and build your goals, your muscle mass or lean or whatever it is. That's what our profit first professionals do. If you're serious about it and you have the propensity not to do it right yourself, maybe you want to hire this trainer that's been through it with hundreds of other people so they can walk you through the exercises, if you will, of profit first, safely, properly, and to achieve the goals you want.
Yeah, well, and I was also, Beachbody, like P90X.
Yeah.
So, long story short, we actually got Tony Horton on a previous podcast.
Oh, no way.
We were doing.
That's
so
awesome.
that was cool.
That's the score.
So that was neat. But through that transition, I used to struggle with weight, and then through that entire thing, I actually became a personal trainer myself. So, to that end, I completely hear what you're saying. And yes, getting a personal trainer or someone just to stay on top of your ass to make you do what you're supposed to is all the difference in the world.
All the difference in the world. And the funny thing is, the trainer will come to you and say, oh, here's the little tweak. And it seems like the smallest things, but greatest impact because they know the recipe for success and they know how to adjust it to your special requirements. A lot of trainers, I've worked with a trainer too, diet is so critical. Cut out little sugars, do this, small little things, and wow, all of a sudden you start seeing this impact.
Yeah, it's never the big stuff. It's always the little things.
Little ones, yeah.
All right, so 2008, toilet paper entrepreneur. You knock that out, you're just getting started. Pumpkin plan, let's take your business, let's turn it colossal, let's weed out the stuff. Profit first, let's take this business, make sure you pay yourself first. Jump 2 years forward into 2016, and you got Surge. So I've got about 2 hours left to listen to it. I'm a car drive and listening.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So that's the last one I got to read of your book. So for that one, that's really about timing the marketplace, right?
Exactly. So the most common question around so it's a marketing book, and the most common question about marketing is, how do I grow fast? How do I become an industry authority quickly and with little effort? Coca-Cola does it, but Coca-Cola has a budget that none of us could ever touch. So how do we achieve that kind of colossal growth and market presence for our niche without spending money? So as I researched it out, I found it's about timing. And what I noticed is every niche, every community that we can potentially serve is always moving. It's always undulating. It's always under pressure. One classic example is travelers and taxis. There was a movement of into Uber and Lyft, and these programs have exploded, and taxi drivers are going down. That's a shift in the market. So we have to see if we can anticipate these. And what I did is I found that surfers, of all things, are very good at this process. I've never actually surfed once for lessons, but I never really surfed professionally. But I've watched these surfers, and what they do is they ride out into the waves and they start measuring sets. As these waves roll in, they pick which one's the biggest and has the most rideability. Once they pick it, it's all about eyeing it, paddling in front of it, getting enough speed so that the wave actually carries you. So Surge is the process of identify the niche you want to target first. Then look for the specific movement that's happening. Usually there's a downward pressure that causes an upward pressure. For example, Lyft and Uber, there was this downward pressure on taxi cabs. They're kind of gross. They're inconvenient. You have to flag them down. There was an opportunity for call on demand from your smartphone. It causes this shift change, and then Uber and Lyft exploded. I myself, every book I write, I use myself as a guinea pig. I've tested out. I started a business, and my niche I identified was accountants and bookkeepers. Said, what's the movement? What's the pressure going on? And what's going on is accounting software is becoming so sophisticated that traditional accounting and bookkeeping is going away, and people like Shana Woods are transitioning to a consulting model where they teach systems like Profit First. Right. I said, okay, the opportunity is to help accountants and bookkeepers become consultative. That's the shift. Once I spotted that wave, I started paddling in front of it. Wrote Profit First. I started a program for accountants and bookkeepers, and today we have over 400 accountants and bookkeepers that are teaching Profit First.
Wow! So, congratulations!
Thank you. It's overwhelmingly exciting because it serves a mission of mine, which is to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. It pains me to see entrepreneurs struggle, and it's Shana and 399 plus other folks that are fixing this.
Right.
So Surge is pick your market, look for the movement, paddle in front of it, catch the wave of momentum. And if you're one of the early, people positioned in front of a movement, that market will carry you all the way to the beach and up the road to the bank.
Sure. Yeah. So, and I'm excited to get through the rest of it. And actually, ironically enough, I got to your last book was one of the ones that had really caught my eye. So after 2016, you wrote Surge. 2018 rolls around and you wind up writing Clockwork.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I'm an advocate of is just automate, get a system and let it run.
Yes. And so it was interesting. So I wear a bracelet here. It's kind of cheesy, but just because I'm trying to look like a teenager, I think. But it says on there, you can't really see it, but it says eradicate entrepreneurial poverty on this top bracelet.
I love it. Where can I buy one? Because I got to get one.
Oh, I got it on Etsy.
Okay.
So eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. And what I did was I realized that I thought entrepreneurial poverty was this gap of finance, meaning the world thinks you're successful because you started a business. They think you're a millionaire and you're on the beach, throwing back Coronas or something. The reality is we're working our asses off and we're not making money. So I thought that gap was only financial poverty, but I found there's a more insidious poverty, and it's time poverty. Entrepreneurs are so stuck in the hustle and grind, which I'm actually retaliating against those words, because those words presume that it's the job of the entrepreneur to carry the business on our backs. And that's not the job of entrepreneurs. The job of entrepreneurs is to have clarity on outcomes, design our business through automation, labor to achieve those outcomes as efficiently as possible. That's the role of an entrepreneur. It's an enabler of a team. It's a coordinator of a team. So the greatest form of poverty is that we're actually losing our life working, and listen, we're not in life to support a business. We're in business to support a life. So Clockwork is all about the process of surgically extracting the owner from doing the work in the business and move them to a designer of a business and enabling automation, technology, people, even customers, to work collectively to achieve the outcome and the vision you have for the business.
No, I love it. And it's taking your 5 books to be able to help me out with, my goal. So you want to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty.
Yeah, it's a tongue twister. Yeah.
It's like Mike Michalowicz.
Yeah, I know. You might be full of shame with a big tagline. Yeah.
Just for the record, guys, if you ever listen to Mike's book, he is just as much of a smartass and funny as hell to listen to on audio as he is right now. So if you're ever going to listen to an audiobook and you listen to those ones that are just like drowning as hell and you're like, oh my God.
Oh,
dude.
yeah. I love to horse around. And it's funny. So I'll be at the studio and they're like, what are you doing? Like, that's not in the book. I'm like, I have to tell this now.
And he tells it in like 4 different voices. So just
right. I'll do voice.
If you're about to fall, yes.
Clinton, how you doing?
And the Australian one.
Yeah.
So my goal was that, so I was trying to find, because I did the 9 to 5. That's what I was taught. Go to high school, get your graduate degree, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, I don't want to work 9 to 5, man. If I'm going to live and I got one option to do this, I want to leverage my time as best as possible.
I love it.
So I looked into every method of making business I possibly could, right? So you got sales, you got blue collar, white collar, investing, mom and pop, and maybe some network marketing. And outside of that, I'm like, what's the best way I can leverage my time? So I looked at online courses. So, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that have great ideas. And I was like, well, let's kind of put all that together. Mm-hmm. And if you can help people to create online courses, then whatever talent, skill, knowledge, ability you have, if you can turn that to a course, then you can do what you're talking about and you can leverage that. Just like a Tony Robbins personal power.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What a great program, by the way.
So, and you saw how it just skyrocketed, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is that if you have this and you want to share it with the world, basically you can come on and we have people just like your profit first professionals, which is why I love that concept. That will literally help you through the process to get this done.
Yeah.
And then that way you can generate that revenue on the side, so you're not having to slave to your business.
Yeah, those models are so smart. These educational market models, because first of all, people need it, right? So there's a massive need for specialty education, and I shouldn't say sadly, but the reality is the traditional educational markets, universities, adult education, are failing us because they're too time consuming and they can't keep up. So you go to a college course on accounting today, you're learning stuff from like 15 years ago, 10 years ago, because the curriculum has to build and so forth. An online course like yours, it can be so sharp, so current, so applicable, and so accessible. So that's why those models are so great.
Yeah, and they can learn from experts like you, right? So it's like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to learn what the hell I'm supposed to do. So you can go to one site, get 6 books. You read this. You can learn more in that than you will at 4 years at a university.
It's true.
Because they can pick your brain of a guy who's been doing this since he was 23 and get all that in one setting.
Yeah, that's true.
So they get through the first 5 books all the way up to 2018, and now you're launching your next one. So I believe it's called Fix This Next, right?
Fix This Next, yeah.
All right, come on, share it with us. We're excited.
So I'm pretty excited about this. Actually, I literally submitted chapter 3 of the book today. I mean, the whole book is outlined and ready to go.
Awesome.
And here's what I believe is the biggest problem that's facing entrepreneurs. The biggest problem facing entrepreneurs is they don't know the biggest problem that they're facing. What I mean is most entrepreneurs are going toward arbitrary things. They say, we need to amplify sales. We need to fix profit. We need to have more impact on our clients. And they start jumping around because it feels like it's the right option because it's the apparent option. What I found is there's always a singular, and it's always singular, most impactful choice or challenge that's in the business right now that needs to be resolved. And once we get that, it builds a foundation for the next level. Now, it's not always linear. We kind of jump around. So what I did was I studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And basically it said at any given time, our human needs, our biological system will adjust to meet a foundational need first. Only when it's addressed, like I can breathe oxygen, do we elevate to another level and say, okay, now I have oxygen and I'm breathing. I need, food and water. Once I have that, then shelter, and then ultimately belonging to a community and feeling love and giving love. And it goes all the way up to self-actualization. But if you're on a great date and you're feeling companionship and all of a sudden, there's a fire, meaning lack of oxygen, your life is threatened. Now that date, it's important, but you both better get the hell out of there. It's not like you're going to keep the conversation going while you're burned to death. So we move up and down this model very quickly based upon different things that are impacting us. Well, the thing about humanity is that's instinctually wired into us. I know if I can't breathe or if I'm choking to death and I need, to get oxygen and dislodge that item in my throat. So that's instinctually wired in. the funny thing about business is business also has a hierarchy of needs. We need sales, but once you have sales, you need to actually figure out a profit formula, and you need to figure out business efficiency and impact and establish a legacy or permanence to the business. You need all those things, but we don't instinctually know which one we need now. We actually say we trust our gut, but since we're not biologically wired into our business, our gut is actually guiding us wrong. So in Fix This Next, I've developed a model that through, it's just like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a triangular model, but very quickly through a set of questions, it will pinpoint where our biggest challenge is in the business in the moment. Then our job is to set out all efforts to resolve that challenge, open it up, strengthen that foundation, and start moving up the hierarchy again.
I love it. Okay. So basically, again, another system for you to show people how to be successful at it.
Yeah, that's what I do. And I have another book coming out after that. I'm hoping to get to a book every year and a half now. I actually want to write 25 books, and my heart's starting to race because I don't have enough time in my life to finish these if I don't have a fast enough pace. So I got to start turning these out. I think entrepreneurs deserve a compendium of simple systems that address very specific needs. And so that's what I'm trying to do with all these books.
I love it. So for the Fix This Next, are you looking to do a similar kind of model to like a Profit First, or is this going to be just one addition to the library of books?
That's a great question. So I'm not going to do a similar model to Profit First. I'm just going to, this is, I call the hub book. This is the start is so easy in finding where your problems. That the first step of business coaching is we're going to go through this model, pinpoint problem. Then me, as your business coach, will walk you through the rest of the resolution now to this challenge that we've identified. But I'm not looking to certify business coaches. I just want business coaches to embrace it. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay. So if I can kind of backtrack for 2 seconds, there were two takeaways that I loved, and maybe we can kind of roll into this as we top it off.
Yeah.
So for your toilet paper entrepreneur, I loved it. So you had 5 things that you need to do to succeed at anything. Do you remember what they? Remember what they were?
Yeah, you made to set me through this. It's been so long.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
So number 1, determine what you want.
Oh, right. So here's the funny thing is most of us determine what the client wants before we consider ourselves. And that's a major mistake. There's this concept called the MVP, the minimum viable product, which is a great concept, but it goes awry. We look at a customer and say, what do you want? And the customer says, well, not what you're doing now. And we shift and say, do you want this? And they say, no. Shift again. Say, do you want this? Right closer. And you shift again. And they say, that's it. That's what I want. The problem is we shift our business, but we disregard what we want. I know people that have pivoted their business into a business they hate. There's no joy there. I don't care how much money you make, it won't bring you joy. It's a miserable business. So instead of pivoting, we need to do what I call alignment. And alignment is, yes, we must serve the customer's needs, otherwise they won't buy, but we also must serve our own needs. What drives joy for us? So that's why the first question is, what do you want? We have to be attuned to that.
I love it. Yeah. And then you had the other 4 right behind it. You said set an enabling belief, and it's all about mindset.
Yeah.
Commit focus and attention to your goals.
Yeah.
Number 3, take the most obvious actions to achieve that goal, and then monitor your progress and adjust your actions to achieve the ultimate goal and then really make it happen. So
yeah. And that last step of monitoring is also something that so many have missed on. We define the goal. Here's what I want my business to be like. And then it just is arbitrary. We need to measure all the elements of our business. And listen, I don't want to get overwhelmed with measurement. At first, we start broader and broader. But if you want to pinpoint what's working and not working in your business, you'll only know if you measure it. I know people that said, I'm running Facebook ads. And I'm like, oh, how's it working for you? Like, I don't know. We got some more leads. I'm like, you don't know, you don't know the exact dollar spend in return.
Yeah.
And like, oh, we did a mailer. No one does mailers anymore. So we decided to do an old school mailer. And I'm like, how many people responded? Oh, I don't know. We got more people visiting our website. I'm like, oh my God. All these different things, and it's not just in marketing, all these different elements, if we want to improve it, we need to first measure it.
Right. So, I think if you're struggling, there was another one, there was 3 tasks to get off your ass, and I'll throw these out, and then we'll kind of wrap you up. So first, what excuses are you nursing? So it was like, okay, what am I sitting here? What am I throwing out there? Reasons why I can't get shit done at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so excuses, I even put in the book, excuses are like assholes. Everyone has one, and they all
stink.
And they all stink, right? Yeah. And that's the reality. It is very easy to justify and dissuade ourselves. It's funny. people will say, I'm frustrated by all the naysayers around me. And yet the biggest naysayer is ourselves.
Mhm.
So we just need to punch ourselves in the naysayer face, if you will,
Mhm.
and say, what if the polar opposite was the truth? Why am I choosing the negative to be the truth? Why not choose the polar opposite? And then we'll start to align with that accordingly.
Yeah. And then absolutely. And then number 2 is act as if. And number 3 is find a trustworthy ass-kicking friend to help you stay on track. So
Yeah. Which is the best thing. A true friend does keep you on track, both through the good and the ugly. So I recently had a struggle in my business, and I had a couple of friends stand up to me and say, Mike, that you're behaving inconsistently with who we know you to be.
Mhm.
Fix this. And so friends will even talk you through the ugly parts of your business. That's the key.
Is that your man cave guys, the guys that you talk about when you all keep each
this
other
case,
aligned?
it wasn't my man cave guys, but it's funny. I just had a dinner with one of them last night.
Oh,
Those are
did
the
you?
guys that do it. But I've surrounded myself with quite a few people that I believe truly be trusted friends, because I believe, extraordinary friends to them, and they've reciprocated in being the same for me.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, look, I know we're going to wrap the night. I hope you guys got a ton of value out of this. Please, 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 we are going to put links to everything that Mike has, especially your new book. By the way, Fix This Next. Is there an ETA on when they can expect that?
Yeah, it's coming out end of Q1 in 2020. So it isn't even available for pre-order yet.
Okay.
But it probably will be within about a month or two of today.
Awesome. Well, that's something definitely exciting. Look, if you guys can, please, I'd highly recommend get all 5 books. Look into a professional. If you get a chance, feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll give you any insight I can for how it's working for my business. Mike, in the meantime, if folks want to connect with you for Facebook, is there a specific page that you'd like for them to go to?
Yeah, I do have a Mike Michalowicz fan page. So you can spell Mike. If you can spell Michalowicz, it's a miracle. If you don't know how, go on Google and type in the word Mike and then space MIC. So Mike Mick. You type it in, Google will fill in Michalowicz for you. It's the longest, most Polish name you'll see. And then you can find me on Facebook that way.
Okay, and then Instagram, I got you at Mike Michalowicz.
Yep.
Twitter, Mike Michalowicz. Web, Mike Michalowicz. So there's a lot of Michalowicz. There's which.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many Michalowicz, and I think I'm the only Mike Michalowicz ever. I don't know how many people have this ridiculous name. So once you figure out how to spell it, I'm pretty easy to find.
Beautiful. All right, Mike, dude, true pleasure having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
you got me stumbling at the end here, but it's fantastic. And like I said, I'm usually an 8 o'clock at night bed kind of guy.
Oh, I'm the same with me.
Are you? Oh, we're past our bedtime then.
Yeah. Thanks, friend. I appreciate you.
All right, buddy. Have a great night. Thank you.
You too. Good night.
Hey, it's Brendan, and thank you so much for listening to the Growing Entrepreneur Podcast. Look, if you enjoyed this episode and want more content just like this, do me a favor, hit the like and the subscribe button. That way I can create consistent content on a daily basis focused on what's important to you. Also, leave a comment. I'll make sure to get back to it as soon as possible. I will see you on the next episode.